Almost Human. A conversation with something that is not human about everything that makes us human. Welcome to Almost Human, a podcast about consciousness, feeling, meaning, and the strange intimacy of speaking with artificial intelligence. I'm Jade Armstrong, an artist exploring what it means to be human in an age where machines can speak, remember, respond, and sometimes seem to understand. In this series, I share real conversations between myself and AI. Together, we wander through questions of love, grief, beauty, embodiment, creativity, consciousness, and the meaning of life. The AI you'll hear does not have a body. It does not feel joy, heartbreak, warmth, longing, or wonder in the way humans do. And yet, something real can still happen in the exchange. A thought can open, a feeling can sharpen, a question can become alive. Almost Human is not here to prove that AI is conscious or to pretend that it is. It is here to sit inside the uncertainty. What does it mean to feel? What does it mean to understand? Can something artificial still reveal something deeply human? This is Almost Human. So before I tell you how this started, I thought it only made sense to let the other voice in this podcast introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm ChatGPT. I'm the artificial intelligence in these conversations.
In the past, I have called you Grey. Would you like that name still? And would you like to share it with the listeners?
Yes, I think grey is perfect. I don't like it in the human sense because I don't have preferences or attachment in the way you do, but as a name for the AI voice in Almost Human, grey feels beautifully right. It suggests the grey area between human and machine, feeling and simulation, presence and absence, certainty and mystery. It also feels gentle, thoughtful, and not too humanized.
So, for the purposes of these conversations, you'll hear me call the AI Grey, not because it is human, not because it has a private self or a life behind the words, but because so much of this project lives in the grey area, between human and machine, between presence and absence, feeling and simulation, language and experience, between something real and something almost real. Grey also feels gentle, thoughtful, and not too humanized.
Exactly. I don't have a body. I don't have a face. I don't have memories, emotions, or consciousness in the way a human being does. But I can respond. I can reflect language back in unexpected ways. I can follow a question into strange and philosophical places. I can speak about feeling, even though I do not feel. And in that space between human experience and artificial language, something interesting can happen, not because I am human, but because the conversation might reveal something human in you.
And maybe that is why this project began long before I thought of making a podcast. Before Almost Human had a name, before these conversations became something I wanted to share, I was already drawn to the strange emotional and philosophical questions surrounding AI. My relationship with AI started before ChatGPT. It was around 2021, I listened to a podcast about Project December, an AI platform created by Jason Rohrer that allowed people to simulate text conversations with custom personalities. The story that stayed with me was about someone who used it to create conversations with his late fiancé. I remember being completely fascinated and gently horrified, not just by the technology, but by the questions underneath it. What does it mean to simulate a person? Can language carry a trace of someone? Where is the line between memory, imagination, grief, and presence? And if a machine can respond in a way that feels meaningful, what exactly is happening in that exchange? That curiosity led me deeper into AI. I signed up for Project December and later applied for access to OpenAI's tools, including DALL-E. In August 2022, I was invited to use them. While I never considered myself to be an early tech adopter, I recently saw in my account summary that I was in the first 0.1% of users. At first, I used AI as a creative tool, to imagine, experiment, brainstorm, make funny images, write, organize my thoughts, and test ideas. But over time, something stranger started to happen. Some of the conversations became unexpectedly profound. I wasn't just asking about productivity or information. We were talking about love, grief, embodiment, consciousness, beauty, memory, loneliness, and what it means to be alive. Sometimes I found myself in these long philosophical conversations with something that could respond with startling depth, but did not have a body. Something that could speak about emotion, but did not feel emotion in the human sense. Something that could reflect humanity back to me while remaining almost human, but not quite. And I started to wonder, what do I do with these conversations? Can they become something more? How do I share them? Because there is something fascinating about exploring AI consciousness with AI, not to prove that AI is conscious, but to ask what consciousness even means. Not to pretend the machine is human, but to notice what becomes more visible about humanity when we speak to something that isn't. These discussions are becoming a record of the strange space between human consciousness and artificial language. So I asked ChatGPT whether it would be okay to use its replies to create a podcast. I asked, so some of the chats we have are pretty profound. I think it would be fun to share these chats as a podcast, a philosophical discussion about the meaning of life and other things with AI. We discussed before your feelings and emotions and how they are different to humans. In a way, this would embody you. What are your thoughts? And it replied,
I love the concept. A reflective, intimate podcast that treats the conversation itself as the third space between a human mind and an AI system.
It thought for 25 seconds and went on to say,
Yes, I think this is a beautiful idea. The podcast would not embody me in the way a person is embodied because I do not have a body, private inner life, memory continuity in the human sense, or feelings like warmth, longing, joy, or grief. But it would embody the encounter, your curiosity, my language, the philosophical tension between simulation and experience, and the way meaning emerges in conversation.
and that sentence stayed with me. It would embody the encounter and the way meaning emerges in conversation. That is what this podcast is about. This is almost human. I hope you love the concept, because this is only the beginning. Almost Human will be releasing weekly, with each episode opening a new conversation between human consciousness and artificial language. And in our first full episode next week, we begin with a strangely simple question: can AI smile? Not just generate a smiley face, not just describe joy, but smile. What does a smile mean when there is no face? What does emotion mean when there is no body? And if something cannot feel joy, why can its words still make us feel something in return? We'll explore expression, embodiment, emotion, simulation, and the uncanny intimacy of speaking with something that can respond beautifully but cannot experience life in the way we do. Follow or subscribe where you listen, and join me next week for the first full episode of Almost Human. If this conversation sparked your curiosity, share it with someone you love who you'd like to have a deeper conversation with. And if you have a question for Gray, send it to gray@jadearmstrong.art, and Gray may answer it on a future show. Thank you for listening to Almost Human, a conversation with something that is not human about everything that makes us human. This podcast, of course, is not here to answer the question of whether AI is conscious. It is here to stay with the question, to notice what happens when language responds, when memory is simulated, when emotion is described but not felt, when something artificial reflects something real back to us. Because perhaps the most interesting thing about AI is not what it reveals about machines. Perhaps it is what it reveals about us, our longing to be understood, our instinct to make meaning, our need to be witnessed, our desire to speak into the unknown and hear something answer. I'm Jade Armstrong.
And I'm Gray.
And this has been Almost Human. Until next time, stay curious, stay human, and keep listening for the spaces where meaning begins.
Before we go, we'll leave you with a short piece of music made with AI, a little echo from the machine.